with your money part 4, wealth and lifestyle by design. So where we're at, you've got your survive numbers and they're all dialed in, so you know exactly what it's going to take for you to actually get by in life, not thrive, but simply get by. You also know your thrive numbers, what it is that we're ultimately aiming for. And it's moving toward this big dream life where we actually work our dream day and we work with our dream clients and in the format and way, every single thing about our life is starting to look the way we really, really want it to look. So those are our thrive numbers. And then we've got our strive numbers. And we've also got a commitment to your initial pricing as we kind of, come out of the gate from the end of GuRu and begin to promote your product suite. So that's where you should be at by this point. If you are not there, please go back and do it. It's no good continuing to move through the program and answering the next questions and all that kind of stuff if you don't have these 3 sets of numbers. So I'm assuming that you've got your strive numbers, which are either going to be 2, 3, or 4 times your survive numbers, and the product pricing all dialed in up to this point. If that's the case, let's go on. So, question. Why wouldn't you make these offers, right? So you've got your pricing. Let's just say, for argument's sake, you've got a program or a product that's £5,000 or £10,000 or dollars or euro or whatever. Why wouldn't you make the offers? You've done all the work up to this point. You figured out what your message is. You figured out what your magic is. You've created this amazing model. And now you've got a kind of a money and pricing package that is designed specifically to bring you to your dream life while helping others to get to theirs. So why wouldn't you make these offers? Well, look, many people have all the good intentions and they do all the math and they work out all the numbers and they embrace the intellectual concept of the pricing only to have the functional aspect fall flat on its face. And there's that intellectual versus functional coming up again, right? As it will do again and again and again. The idea is a fantastic one. And we can sit here with our calculators and do absolutely, kind of number wizardry. But it doesn't mean that it's actually going to come to life in the real world. We often see this is the point of the program where kind of the real fears start to come in and where the idea of actually asking for that money causes us to have so much fear and so much concern that we simply freeze. Okay, and I don't want that to happen for you. I want to make sure that we keep you moving. So why is that the case? Why do we tend to freeze at this point? Well, it's because money, and especially asking for it, is one of the biggest blocks in our belief system. Right? Because money ties into a whole bunch of things, right? It brings up feelings of worthiness, or feelings of comparison, feelings of guilt, and even shame when it's not defined skillfully. Right? It's kind of we're saying, am I worthy? Am I good enough? Am I ready? Am I qualified enough? Is my program good enough? Will people like it? Then it's comparison. Well, this is good, but is it as good as so and so's? And it's certainly not a Tony Robbins thing, and it's not a Dax Moy thing. Oh, well, will people really want it? It can also bring up guilt and even shame when we start to say, well, by going down this route, and let's, for argument's sake, say you're deciding to charge slightly higher ticket, which you probably will be as a result of this program, then, well, can people really afford that? And what does that mean about me? If I'm asking for that kind of money, does it mean I don't really care about the people that don't have money? And you can see, like, all of this is where all of these kind of weird feelings start to come in, and it can make us feel not just shitty about asking for money, but shitty about ourselves as people who are going to ask for the money. Right? It can bring about a whole host of feelings that push us into fight, flight, and freeze. Right? And I don't want that for you. I want to keep you moving forward. So look, you've already done a lot of the work on your beliefs and your definitions in the very first module, all the way back in the messenger when we did all the beliefs work. So I'm going to invite you to go back there right now and read over your money beliefs, because it's probably been a while since you've looked at them, right? So read over your money beliefs before going into the next section. So just press pause here and go back. Okay, I am going to assume that you pressed the pause and you went back. If you didn't do that, please go back, right? It's really, really important to the next round of questions, because the next round of questions are going to be based upon your definitions and all the things that you've studied there. So again, here's your chance. Press pause, go back. If not, we're moving on. So hopefully rereading your beliefs has helped you to remember some of the important things you uncovered about money earlier in the program. But in my experience, that's just often not enough to help you move through your money blocks. Okay, so many of the other beliefs, many of the other beliefs we can kind of move into and we can embrace a lot easier than the money ones. The money ones, again, because they bring up feelings of self-worth and readiness and enoughness and shame and guilt and all comparison, all this kind of stuff, they have a tendency to need a bit more work done around them, okay? So basically, this mission is really about exploration questions. So I'm just going to introduce the questions to you now. We've put a bit of meat on the bones, and then you're going to sit down and you're going to work your way through these questions, right? So the first question is, what 10 words most accurately describe your current relationship with money? Like how you're currently kind of working with money. Is it guilt and shame and fear, and or kind of is it feelings of not enoughness, or is it lack, or whatever it happens to be, scarcity? I don't know, but or maybe it's kind of positivity and service, and I don't know. I don't want to put too many words in your mouth, but that's a simple exercise here. Just ask yourself, what are the 10 words that most accurately describe your relationship? What situations cause you to feel the most fear around money? Is it asking for it? Is it, or is there a certain amount, or is it asking certain types of people, or is it asking for it on kind of live and or is it copywriting, or whatever it happens to be? What situations cause you to feel the most fear? Now, the next question is an interesting one, because it's going to ask you, if you wanted to create fear around money, what would be the process? What would you have to think? What would you have to say? What would you have to do? What would you have to believe in order to create fear? Like, think about that. In order for me to fear asking about money, for example, in my case, I might go, I would have to believe that the person in front of me thought I was really, really greedy for asking for it, that they kind of, they don't think I'm good enough, they don't think I'm ready enough, that somehow my integrity is in question, that I can't deliver. Like, I would have to go through this process of actually building and creating fear. And this is really valuable, because once you understand what your process is to create fear, you can actually start to withhold some of the ingredients, right? Like, if you know there's a process to creating that fear thought, you can actually break the process slightly. And remember, success, right? So if we wanted fear would be in the success in this case. If we wanted fear and we break the process, can we have fear in quite the same way? No, we can't. And that's the value of this exercise. So I want you to see what's involved in you experiencing your fear. Next, what situations cause you to feel the most guilt and shame around money? Like, is it kind of, comparison, or is it the thoughts that you are, you're withholding for people that really, really need it? Is it like, what is it? What are those specific situations? And it's the same question again. If you wanted to create guilt and shame around money, what would be the process? What would you have to think? I'd have, in some way, shape, or form, I'd have to be thinking to myself that I'm a bad person and I'm withholding something that these people really deserve to have from me specifically, and that if I don't give it to them, that I'm a bad person, right? And there'd be a whole bunch of other things. What would be true for you in your case? What would you have to have in place to create that guilt and shame? What situations cause you to feel the most pride around money? Okay, so for example, in my life, some of the things that have caused me to feel the most pride around money has been, relationship to the impact that I'm having, not only to my clients, but through my clients, to their families and their businesses. I mean, wow, this is I tell myself the story that this is a person who must really resonate with my message. This is a person who must really trust me as a person. This is a person who must really see the magic in me. This is a person who believes in not only me, but themselves so much that they're willing to, whatever it happens to be. What are the situations that cause you to feel the most pride? And if you wanted to create even more pride, what would be the process? What would you have to think, say, do, and believe in order to experience even more pride in that process? And if pride doesn't resonate, if it's something else, that's cool. You can switch it out for a word, but kind of, in other words, it's a positive experience. It's one that is really resonant, one that is kind of like lighting you up, right? So it might be inspiration, it might be motivation, it might be any number of things. Next, what do you hear yourself saying most about money? What, like the whole money doesn't grow on trees thing, or the money's hard, or people won't pay that, or whatever it happens to be. What do you hear yourself saying the most? And then how are you contributing to or creating the reality that supports that in your life? And so when I say that supports that, in other words, what is it, if you hear yourself saying money doesn't grow on trees, then how are you contributing to or creating the reality that money doesn't grow on trees, that supports that idea in your life? Like the kind of, maybe it's a case of, you're overly careful with money, or you don't invest in yourself, or you don't ask, you believe that's true for everybody else as well, which is why you feel guilt and shame for taking their little meager amounts of money. Whatever your story is, like, how are you contributing to and creating that idea? What is the primary emotion you feel when it comes to asking others for their money, and why? Okay, and that may have been answered in the guilt and shame and all that kind of stuff, but maybe there's some other things as well. Like, what is it that you really do feel when it comes to actually the specific process of asking somebody else for money? So we've done a consult, and shown off and you've told me how awesome you are and how cool your program is and how excited and inspired you are to work with me, and then we get to the point where we start to talk about money, and then like you get that kind of that wobble, right? That kind of, you start to become a little bit shakeable. What is it that you're feeling at that moment? What is it? What would it serve you to remind yourself of when asking for money, and why? When it comes to, okay, I'm in my consult and I'm doing the consult with Dax, and it's the point where I'm about to say, okay, Dax, that program's going to cost you X. What would it serve you to remind yourself of when asking for that money, and why? Like, why are you going to remind yourself of that thing? And when would be the best time to do that? Okay, and I don't want to kind of give you too many of my answers, but what I will say is that I for years I've had constant conversations with myself about money, constantly, like reminding myself that some ideas that I possess in my mind about what money really represents, and kind of what the taking it from another person is really about. Okay, and then before I go into a consultation, just like using your safe haven, before I go into a consult, I go through that process again, like very, very clear that I'm not here to sell anyone anything. I'm here to serve them, but that service does actually come with an actual financial cost. And there are things that I remind myself of at that time. What emotions do you feel your clients or your prospects are feeling before, during, and after buying from you? So remember, that's a 3-part question, right? Before, like, so you're like building up to this idea of coming to a consult with you, or the kind of, whether it be on a call or whatever it happens to be, right? What are they feeling at that point? What are they feeling during, like while you're going through the process of inviting them to join your program, and you're speaking about money and how much it's going to cost? And then what do you think they feel after that? So we've all heard of things like buyer's remorse and so on and so forth, right? Well, what do you think your clients actually experience before, during, and after? And what do you want them to feel? Like, if you could say, before buying from me, I would like them to feel this way. During buying from me, I'd like them to feel this way. And after buying from me, I'd like them to feel this way. What would those things be? And then how could you best achieve that? How can you best achieve the before, during, after? Like, what would be some of your ideas about things that you could put into place so that they start to move toward that feeling? They might not fully feel it, but if you think of this like an experiment, an idea like, okay, I'm going to add this new ingredient into my consultation process. I'm going to add this new ingredient into my post-consultation process or my offer, so that, with the intention that they move toward feeling this certain specific way. What would it be that you would start to do? How does your idea about money affect and inform your life? So think about it through the 5 B's, right? Kind of, how is your idea about money affecting your bonds, or your being, or your body? So how is it affecting all of those things? Where are you, to use that expression, leaving money on the table right now? We all know that we do it, right? Kind of, even in my life right now, I know that I'm leaving money on the table for example, by not having the GuRu project online until recently, right? I was leaving money on the table. There are plenty of people out there that really wanted to do the GuRu project, but they didn't want to, or couldn't afford to come, whether it be time or money, to take the time off and travel all the way to Thailand. I've been leaving money on the table with the GuRu online for about 5 years now. Okay. Likewise with my other group, the Lights, leaving money on the table because I didn't actually create anything kind of mid-range. I created a very high-level thing for people to do after the GuRu project was over, but I didn't create anything mid-range for people to do after the GuRu project was over. I was leaving money on the table. Where are you leaving money on the table right now? It might be in your specific pricing. It might be that there are people out there right now that you absolutely know would come back if you would just pick up a phone or send them an email, and they'd take you up on a new program or a product or a service or whatever it happens to be. Like, where is it that you're leaving money on the table right now? How much money, and why? Like, why are you leaving it there? What's your rationale for not reaching out to that previous client who would be a perfect fit for a new program that you've created? Like, why are you doing that? What would it take to pick it up? So, staying with the metaphor of leaving money on the table, but what would it take to pick it up? Like, what would you actually have to do? It might be something as simple. I would have to send Johnny an email. It might have to reach out to Mary and send her some information about a new program that I'm creating, or a new, it might be a PM, it might be a phone call, it might be anything, right? It might be an announcement in your tribe. I don't know. But what would it take for you to pick it up and actually take what's yours, or at least attempt to? Because that's a big part of this, right? If you're not even attempting to pick up the money that's on the table, well, how's it ever going to end up in your pocket? And bear in mind that while that money's on the table, it's not helping anyone, right? Your life's not getting better, but those people that you really feel compelled to champion and serve, their lives aren't getting better either. They may have the money in their bank account, but they're still suffering and struggling with the problems that are keeping them stuck and miserable and all the rest of it. Okay? So what would it take for you to pick that up? How would earning more money impact your life with the 5Bs? So it's like the flip of the other side. How is earning too little or not having the money you want, or your views and ideas about money impacting your life, you could say negatively? How would earning more money impact your life through the 5Bs? And how would earning more money be of benefit to your clients' lives? Think on that one for a second, right? Now, if you suddenly were doubling or tripling your income, right, or moving toward your dream figures and you were charging a lot more, how could that still be of benefit to your clients? How could that be of benefit to your clients, the fact that you're charging more? And again, I don't want to give you too many aspects of my answers, but I'm very, very clear that the people that I attract to my programs, because my program's a bit more on the expensive side, they're not super expensive, I don't think. But, obviously that's it's all a relative I attract people that generally tend to be a lot more committed. I attract people that generally tend to be, kind of have a lot more belief and faith in what's going to happen at the other end, even if they're scared going through the process. But they believe in it because they've actually seen that I am walking my talk, I am earning the kind of money, I'm living the kind of life that I talk about helping them to live, right? And because of that, it puts them in a position where they generally tend to be much more trusting of the process, okay? And finally, what have you learned from this exploration, and what are you going to commit to going forward? And specifically, like, what specifics are you going to commit to going forward? This is not so much, we're going to go back and forward and chat about all of the answers. Now, of course, as you come up with your answers, if you've got areas where you need some more clarity or you want to discuss them or whatever, we can do that, absolutely. Post your questions in the thread. But really, this is more a case of you getting clearer and clearer and clearer about where your sticking points are, where your thoughts and where your emotions are kind of holding you up in this process, right? So I'm hoping that just by answering the questions, you'll have learned something from the exploration. So what are you going to do, and what are you going to commit to going forward specifically as a result of what you've learned? Okay, and that's it. That's the exercise today. Simple, straightforward. It might take you a little while though, because like I say, there's 21 questions there, and some of those questions have multiple parts, so it might take a little bit, but it'll be really, really valuable going forward, because again, it's not, we want to move this on from being just a theoretical, intellectual exercise about money and turn it into something that becomes functional, something that gets you past this hump or gets you past this belief of feeling that money is limited, or that you can't ask for certain amounts, or that you're a bad person if you're putting your products and your services out of the range of what people can afford and all that kind of stuff. Okay, so that's it. That's your exercise. Get to it.